My former boss, Sir Peter Westmacott, who was British ambassador to Turkey, and then to France, and then to the United States, he used to say that leadership is not just lonely, it's difficult, and it's getting more so. That's because there's more information, more transparency. There's also more pressure to get it right, but less time to do so with the 24/7 news cycle and social media. And then there's less forgiveness if you get it wrong. So we all have to work harder at decision making, problem solving, communicating, and delivery. So what's changed? Globalization, changes in the planet, in population, in society, wealth and technology. All these things mean that our world is becoming more interdependent and power is more broadly distributed. In a world of shared power, business as well as civil society affects and they need each other. No single one can deliver alone. And for a government to be successful, at least in Western capitalist society, government needs to connect all stakeholders and not just shareholders. The challenge for government is how to deal with a loss of control. There's a new mentality about, bringing with it different aspirations, different expectations and values. Electors and citizens are better educated, better informed, better networked, and so better organized and more demanding. They hold governments to account like never before. And then we have to live with the 24/7 news cycle and social media. Governments need to react to events far outside their control. They also face greater constraints. Money is scarce, minorities are vociferous, international capital is in control, so reducing the room for maneuver. Governments face problems they can't solve by themselves. Climate change, migration, for example. The best leaders, leaders in diplomacy as well as in government, look beyond urgent day-to-day demands. They focus on future needs. They have the capacity to work with multiple stakeholders and partners, and their solutions are long-term, innovative, and they benefit everyone. So strong diplomatic or political leadership is the capacity to interact strategically in a world where government, business, and wider society share power to shape the future in a global economy. This is all very well set out in a book on PQ leadership. Leadership that sets successful leaders apart. It's written by colleagues of mine at the British Foreign Office, and if you have the chance, I thoroughly recommend that you have a look at it. And it deals with situations where previously there was too much focus on short term, a gap between rhetoric and delivery, which of course annoyed disengaged voters. Now there's a greater focus on getting things done, on delivery, on results, rather than how much money we spent and how much effort we put in. So good, politically effective solutions are typically innovative, because we know that complex problems won't be solved by doing things the way we always used to do them. Good, politically effective solutions are international. They're long-term. They take time to embed. They're sustainable because they maintain essential resources. And above all, they're ethical because people need to trust in their leaders if they, the people, are prepared to commit to change as well. So what are we looking for in a politically intelligent leader? We're looking for people who look to the future, people who shape the future, who set a strategic direction, who appreciate, just like good diplomats do, the changing currents in society. They reset delivery to seize the opportunity and to handle risk. They balance different ways of thinking, analytical, innovative, strategic, and operational. And they deliver They deliver their future promises by bringing focus and clarity to complex decision making, and also by driving implementation. There's a nice Japanese proverb: vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. Or, as the former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill used to say, however beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at the results. Now, for good political leaders, thinking time is productive time. So they make time to find out what's going on in the world, to engage with others, to listen and to learn. Indeed, the good political or diplomatic leader studies power, finds out where power and influence really lie in every stakeholder group, and they build helpful networks and relationships. They take every opportunity to influence, advancing their vision. They act courageously, taking risks and upholding ethics. They also influence stakeholders by combining charisma and purpose, and they understand complexity. They have what I call empathy with purpose. They can imagine themselves in the shoes of another person, emotionally feeling what that other person feels, appreciating how that other person sees the world. So, good leaders study the person as well as the file. They warm up the person by doing things that are important to them. And they remember that the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. So, when they go into a room, they understand who the decision makers really are and how those decisions are made. They understand that influence isn't turned on overnight, but you need to build relationships with key people long before you actually need them. You need to be useful to people, to be generous with them. And you have to take the relationship out of the workplace and make it personal. They study the key stakeholders. They see and feel the world from other perspectives. They relate to wider society. And they build shared empathy, attracting others through their values, their behavior, and their innovation. And ultimately, they inspire commitment. Then there's trust. Good leaders, strong leaders, act with integrity and honesty. They operate ethically, inclusively, transparently. They have values and they put effort into projects and relationships that deliver for the long term and benefits the whole of society. And they can manage competing interests without compromising that trust. This gives them a track record that people rely upon. And you have to remember that reputations, good reputations, are built on trust. Indeed, trust is the main building block for a successful team. The team have to trust the leader's judgment, their honesty, and they have to believe that when they're encouraged to take risks, if it goes wrong, the good leader will then front up and take the blame. So, when something goes wrong, you don't hide it, you don't hope that the thing will go away, you actually fess up. You hope that you can, I'll say something else. It's sometimes very hard to say that you've done something foolish, you've done something wrong, and you hope that the issue will go away, or you allow details to dribble out bit by bit. But that's counterproductive, and it makes you look as if you have something to hide. It's far, far better to choose full transparency, full honesty, and get everything out, the whole story, right away. Think of, for example, the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011. In Japanese society, you find an ingrained convention of obedience, reluctance to question authority, sticking with the program, groupthink, insularity. And that, of course, was disastrous. Or looked at another way, when you do EU negotiations, if you have reneged on a deal, reaching agreement next time is next to impossible. Essentially, as Shimon Peres used to say, a leader in office has to decide, does he want to be in the history book or does he want to be in the guest book? Finally, you need to be versatile. You need to change your approach to meet new demands, ranging from a crisis to evolutionary change. You need to have self-control to find the best response and the best pace to fit the circumstances. You have to maintain focus, a disciplined approach, rigor, and of course you need to be well prepared. And then you need to exude confidence. You need to be at ease, in touch with what other people are feeling. And you need to recognize reality, knowing when to push and when to concede, working with the politics to achieve what you need to achieve. So you find that good leaders, strong leaders, have a broad range of behaviors and the self-control and command to use those behaviors flexibly, intentionally, but flexibly. Arnold Palmer, the American golfer, used to say, it's a funny thing, you know, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And it's important here to play the role. There's an element of theatre about this, and that really matters. Image is very powerful. So, if you take your task and listen very carefully, when you meet people, be humble. Don't go into a place thinking you know more than the people there. These are the kind of characteristics that set successful leaders, political and diplomat leaders, apart.